Good evening. You're watching the main news on HKIBC. I'm Raymond Yeung. Here are tonight's top stories. Carrie Lam warns that the final phase of the relaxation of social distancing measures may be postponed. John Lee says President Xi Jinping wants Hong Kong's revamped electoral system to stay in place for a long time. And the government rules out using taxpayers' money to save the jumbo floating restaurant. The third stage of the vaccine pass arrangement took effect today, with people aged 12 and above needing 3 COVID jabs to enter certain premises. But hopes that the remaining social distancing measures will be lifted soon were dashed. Joanna Ho reports.
Although a record high of more than 50,000 people took their third COVID jab yesterday, Chief Executive Carrie Lam said the final stage of the relaxation of social distancing measures might not take place as scheduled in late June.
We are in a sort of a stagnant situation with the number of positive tested cases staying at around 200 and 300 cases, including local infections as well as imported cases. But there have already been over 10 such infection clusters in the community, especially the most recent 2 cases involving bars.
Lam believes that delaying the final phase would not be detrimental, as it only involves removing remaining restrictions, such as opening hours and capacity of some premises. Lam's announcement came as the third phase of the vaccine pass scheme took effect. From today, people aged 12 or above must have received 3 COVID jabs or have taken their second shot within the past 6 months to enter certain venues, such as restaurants and shopping malls. Some were barred from restaurants this morning because they did not fulfill the requirements. This man has not had a third dose and did not know that new rules are now in force. He said he'll get a jab as soon as possible, but until then he will depend on takeaways. This man had a third dose at least 3 months ago, but still wasn't allowed into a restaurant. He believes it's because he hasn't updated his vaccination record in a Leave Home Safe app. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
New COVID cases in Hong Kong have climbed about 300 for the first time in 2 weeks. Health officials said there were 329 new infections, of which 35 were imported. The clusters from 2 bars in Central have expanded to 59 after 14 more people contracted the virus. Over 200 people who visited the bars have yet to get tested. Health officials admit that the transmission chains of the Omicron subvariant BA.2.12.1 exist in the community, but urge people not to worry. A worker at the Convention and Exhibition Center is suspected of contracting the subvariant. 2 other staff members were infected earlier and were linked to the Tai Kung Shing McDonald's cluster. Incoming Chief Executive John Lee, who has returned from Beijing after receiving his appointment letter, has spoken of President Xi Jinping's views on electoral reform.
President Xi has made it very clear that the improved electoral system is in full confirmation with the principle of one country, 2 systems, and is taking consideration of the actual situation of Hong Kong and satisfies the development needs of Hong Kong. And it should be maintained for a long period of time. The 6th-term government will, of course, uphold this position and maintain the system for a long period of time.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam has shied away from predicting when Hong Kong will be able to elect its top leader directly. Macy Mock reports.
When he met Hong Kong's incoming chief executive John Lee in Beijing yesterday, President Xi Jinping said the SAR's new electoral system suits its development and should be cherished and persist for a long time. The electoral revamp guarantees that only patriots can administer Hong Kong. Chief Executive Carrie Lam, who will be succeeded by Lee on July the 1st, was asked when Hong Kongers will be able to directly elect their top leader. She did not give a specific time frame, but echoed Xi, saying the system should remain. Lam claimed that before the electoral reform, people who were not patriotic and had colluded with the foreign forces were able to enter the political system. Without naming names, she queried why lawmakers who had pledged allegiance to the SAR and the Basic Law had asked foreign governments to impose sanctions on Hong Kong officials and the city itself. Lam pointed to Article 45 of the Basic Law, which states the ultimate aim is to select the chief executive by universal suffrage after a broadly based committee nominates candidates. She said the goal could be achieved in a gradual manner based on Hong Kong's conditions. The city's sole non-establishment lawmaker Teck Chi-yuen, who advocates democratic reform, did not comment on whether Xi's remarks would affect the city's progress towards direct elections for the chief executive. Maisie Mock, HKIBC.
The government has confirmed that there will be no fireworks display on July 1st, when the city marks 25 years since the handover. The pyrotechnic display was suspended for the past few years because of COVID and the public gathering ban. Recent COVID clusters at the Lan Kwai Fong Entertainment Precinct also prompted the decision, according to sources. Instead, the Home Affairs Bureau said a special edition of the Symphony of Lights show will be staged along Victoria Harbour. The chief executive says the government will not inject public money to throw a lifeline to the Jumbo floating restaurant. The landmark eatery has suspended business since 2020 and may leave Hong Kong as early as next month. Joanna Ho reports.
Chief Executive Carrie Lam insists that the government will not use public money to save the Jumbo floating restaurant, which could leave Hong Kong next month. In a bid to invigorate the south of Hong Kong Island, Lam suggested in her policy address in 2020 that the iconic restaurant in Aberdeen be donated to Ocean Park. But the theme park has been unable to find a third-party operator to run the business. The vessel's license expires next month. The parent company, Aberdeen Restaurant Enterprises, is trying to find a new home overseas for the tourist attraction, as no shipyard in the city can accommodate it. More than 10 catering firms and organizations were approached, but none accepted the offer to take the restaurant because of cost concerns. Lam said her administration could not help if the operator and Ocean Park were unable to reach an agreement. She added that the government will not push through any proposal that is unfeasible or expensive. Southern District Councillor Paul Zimmerman says the government has not done enough to save the attraction.
So the way to take this project forward is to ask for proposals, and we have not seen any exercise where the government has said to the public with an advertisement in the newspaper to say we are asking the public for proposals for Jumbo. So I don't think that the government has made any efforts other than one conversation with Ocean Park.
Zimmerman urged the government to consider using the restaurant for other purposes so that it can stay in the city or return in the future. Joanna Ho, HKIBC.
Overseas, grief and agony continue to grip the small U.S. town of Uvalde as it prepares to bury the 19 young children and 2 teachers killed by a teenage gunman last week.
What their mothers and their fathers and their grandparents and I and everyone has done to try to make their lives good and make them healthy and, and move them ahead and make them successful in the world and that sort of thing. and literally got snuffed out in a matter of seconds. Those lives are gone, and we'll never know what they could have done for the world and their families.
A wake was held for Mary Jo Garza, the first victim to be buried. She had just turned 10, and for her birthday, she was given a mobile phone. She used her birthday present in a vain attempt to get police to rescue her, her classmates, and 2 teachers. And Mary had wanted to become an art teacher.
The consolation that the parents can have is that their angel is in heaven. And it's a good place for them. I believe that they came as little angels are given to us, and they returned home.
The European Union has overcome internal divisions and agreed to phase out Russian oil, but under certain conditions. The decision came as Russia made deeper inroads in eastern Ukraine. Sarah Wong reports.
It's almost 100 days since Russia invaded, and the situation in eastern Ukraine is looking grim. The city of Severodonetsk is poised to fall, as heavy Russian shelling decimated the largest government-held stronghold in the Donbass. The invading forces have captured almost the entire Lugansk region and are on the verge of achieving the Kremlin's aim of complete liberation. The human toll is growing, with French broadcast journalist Frédéric Leclerc-Amhoff killed by shrapnel when covering an evacuation near Severodonetsk. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky expressed his condolences and said Russia has stepped up its offensive in the Donbass. But Zelensky won a victory of sorts when the European Union agreed to a potential embargo of Russian oil.
It is a big step forward what we did today, because indeed we now have gotten rid of coal, and this was already very difficult.
There were speculations about the risk for a lack of unity, of European Union's unity, and I think that more than ever it's important to show that we are able to be strong.
But the watered-down embargo covers only Russian oil brought in by sea, allowing pipeline deliveries to continue for now. The United States, meanwhile, ruled out arming Ukraine with long-range rocket systems that could strike Russia. The decision is set to frustrate Zelensky, who has been pressing NATO for more powerful weapons. Sarah Wong, HKIBC.
Performance in the mainland's factory and non-manufacturing sectors improved this month, but still remained in contraction. The official Factory Purchasing Managers Index beat market estimates and rose by more than 2 points to a 3-month high of 49.6. This came as COVID curbs in manufacturing centers were relaxed, but the impact of the pandemic has not been completely erased. With COVID cases declining, the PMI for the services sector jumped 6 points to 47.8. Still short of the 50-point mark, which implies growth. Tech shares helped the Hang Seng Index gain 1.4% to reach a 6-week high. Food delivery platform Meituan was among the biggest winners, jumping almost 7% to give the stock benchmark its biggest boost today. Hot pot chain Haidilao rose 6.3% as it tries to expand further overseas, with restaurants planned in the Philippines. Mainland developer Season rose 7% after selling green offshore bonds worth $100 million. Now let's take a look at the markets. The Hang Seng Index gained 291 points today. To the top 10 active stocks, Tencent was up by $12.40, while Kuaishou Technology was up by $5.10. Ping An Insurance was up by 80 cents, JD.com up by $3.20, while AIA was up by 30 cents. To the forex trading against the Hong Kong dollar, euros at 8.40, pound sterling at 9.87, while the Australian dollar at 5.63. And finally, in Europe, the London FTSE is currently up by nearly 24 points. On to the weather now. It will be hot with sunny periods tomorrow, but with a few showers. Temperatures will range between 27 and 32 degrees. Hot with sunny periods and isolated showers on Thursday and Friday. Now let's take a look at the weather around the world. That's our main news for Tuesday night. Join us for more news at 11. I'm Raymond Yeung. Good evening.